Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. Go back. And you might ask yourself, why would I give up the best port in America for a bunch of textiles, plastic, and glass, but the people who sold it to them didn't know much about military power? You won't value the property if you don't understand why you want it. Michael Saylor, founder and executive chairman of MicroStrategy, made another very optimistic price prediction for Bitcoin on Friday at the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville. Bitcoin is the biggest cryptocurrency by market value. There will be bear base and bull reasons for Bitcoin in 2045. It will be the most popular cryptocurrency in 21 years. Saylor thinks that the price of a Bitcoin coin will go up by at least $4,300, from $68,000 to $3 million. Saylor thinks that Bitcoin's market value will go from $1.3 trillion to $280 trillion, a 2,800% increase, if it hits $13 million by 2045, which is a 19,000% increase in price from now. The well-known businessman and developer said that the world economy is having a hard time because we are holding on to bad assets and using bad systems to do so. Bitcoin will easily be worth more than gold and art on the market, lives, including stocks and bonds. He says that Ferraris, real estate, and government bonds are all examples of real goods that have lost value over time. A ranch in the US called King Ranch has a history of 171 years, making it one of the oldest. He uses this ranch to show how entropy is lowering the value of tens of thousands of other ranches that were started around the same time or even before that. Saylor went on to say that war, poverty, and natural disasters also make things less valuable. Saylor says that all of these problems don't matter in the long run when buying in Bitcoin. If you keep Bitcoin with a guardian, it could be useful for up to 1,000 years. If you keep Bitcoin for yourself, it could be useful for 10,000 years. Saylor stayed very optimistic about the leading cryptocurrency because of this. He thinks it could hit $49 million per coin. Now, how long does Bitcoin last? You pay 10 basis points to put your Bitcoin in a custodian that is good enough for institutions. That means you'll live 1,000 years, according to the first law of money. People who hold Bitcoin might not live for 1,000 years. But that doesn't matter because you can move the Bitcoin every year or 10 years and stay one step ahead of the caretakers dying. There is no way to move a building. You can't send the King Ranch somewhere else. Do you know? That's why Bitcoin is something you can move. Let's say you keep your Bitcoin safe. If you buy good hardware wallets and signing devices and set aside one day a year to keep track of your Bitcoin, you can keep it safe for about 1 basis point a year. This is an asset that will last 10,000 years. If you give it to the AI, what will happen? Those private keys can be kept safe by an AI or a computer software for the price of electricity. It's a treasure that will last 100,000 years. The AIs will want the Bitcoin. If they could own Bitcoin, the ranch in Texas, the gold bar, or the Argentine peso, it's pretty clear what they'd choose, and you can see why. Digital things are in a different league. You can tell they're not like the other assets you can use to protect your capital because they barely match. No one else lives in the next 30, 40, or 50 years. But you do. You live in the next 10,000 to 100,000 years. It's a big step forward in protecting capital, and it changes the whole field of economics. Make smart trades if you want to get rich. And now, for a very easy rule, change temporary to long-term. You can exchange your melting ice cream cone for pesos, pesos for dollars, dollars for land, and land for Bitcoins. Exchange the money for money. Change something weak for something strong. Give something local in exchange for something global. Give something solid in exchange for a digital item. You can trade the security for the good. Trade the good for something that is hard to get. Going that way is a good idea. Let's talk about some great deals that were worth $1 trillion. The Dutch knew how to use military power. They knew about ships. They had a lot of them. For a few $100s worth of plastic and cloth items, they bought the best port in the New World. That's worth $2.5 trillion now, okay? It was an investment that has given a 6% return every year for 398 years. It's a return of $10.5 billion. And you might ask yourself, why would I give up the best port in America for a bunch of textiles, plastic, and glass, but the people who sold it to them didn't know much about military power? You won't value the property if you don't understand why you want it. Napoleon wished to travel the old world, while Jefferson wished to grow in the new world. In 1803, France gives Louisiana to the US for $15 million. The $15 million were probably enough to keep the French army going for a few months. It's gone. Yes, Jefferson got it. He won 27% of the US. It is an X return of $800,000. which is worth at least $12 trillion. It is going to be worth more. Jefferson had a clear mind. Like this man did, Stewart bought Alaska for $7 million years after the Civil War destroyed most of the country. Saylor said in his speech that the world's real and financial assets hold $900 trillion in wealth, but a lot of these assets are based on ideas and technology from the 20th century. Only a very small, barely visible portion are based on innovations from the 21st century that are really hard to come by right now. The market value of Bitcoin, which is $1.3 trillion, is only 0.1% of the world's overall financial market value. At worst, Saylor thinks it will have grown to 2% by 2045. At best, he thinks it will have grown to 7%. He also says that the $450 trillion in assets held for use are different from the $450 trillion in assets held as a long-term capital source of value. People around the world are always losing money, so he figures out how much it costs them to hold on to these assets. Here are some more parts of Saylor's speech. It was John D. Rockefeller's plan to start an oil business. There is $1 trillion worth of oil under Alaska right now. It's a huge reward for a piece of paper. The value of digital wealth is how much? Take the $450 trillion and multiply it by 3.3%. You can also call that your inflation cost or entropy cost. Every year, it costs $13.5 billion to deal with all of those awful people while they're trying to keep their money. That is worth $270 trillion if you value it at 20 times its present value, like you would a company or a long-term bond. So digital capital is worth $100 trillion a year or $10 trillion. Check the facts. Is he telling lies? For the past 4 years, digital capital has given back 55%. The bond is the best form of cash in the world. It's less than 5%. You could name your business or country after a minus 5% instead of a plus 55%. It's clearly doing its job. Let's go back to my chart now. We can look at the world's wealth this way and see the little Bitcoin. Like square in the left corner. What's going on though? Here is my long-term Bitcoin prediction. It's been 21 years. Out to the year 2045. What do I believe will happen? I have a bear case and a bull case, but I think that the 55% R will go down to 50%, 45, 40, 35, 35, 35, 25, 20. It's around $20 to $50. It will slowly slow down until it's rising about twice as fast as the SP index. And at that rate, each Bitcoin coin will be worth $13 million in 2045. 13 million. The number of people who think Bitcoin is worth 3 million or 49 million is not important. What is Bitcoin? 7% of the world's wealth at that time. What about the other thing that you own? In other news, Marathon Digital, a digital asset technology company based in Florida, recently said it had bought $100 million worth of Bitcoin and would be using a full HODL approach from now on. In a tweet on Thursday, cryptocurrency mining company said, "Today we are announcing that Marathon has purchased $100 million worth of BTC and are once again adopting a full HODL strategy." The Florida-based company said in another statement that it has more than 20,000, which is worth more than $1.3 billion at the moment. Marathon also wants to keep all the Bitcoin it mines because